Donald Trump's approach to foreign policy and negotiation has often been compared to the Madman theory, a strategy associated with President Richard Nixon during the Cold War. However, it's important to note that the effectiveness of this approach is highly debatable and controversial. Let's examine the elements that some argue make Trump's application of the Madman theory appear effective, while also considering the criticisms and potential drawbacks. Unpredictability as a tactic. Trump's unpredictable nature is often cited as a key element of his Madman approach, keeping adversaries off balance. By making seemingly erratic statements and decisions, Trump attempts to keep foreign leaders guessing about his next move. This uncertainty can potentially lead adversaries to be more cautious in their actions. Breaking diplomatic norms. Trump's willingness to disregard traditional diplomatic protocols and make bold, unexpected statements can create a sense of unease among both allies and adversaries. Social media as a tool. Trump's use of Twitter to make sudden policy announcements or issue threats contributes to the perception of unpredictability. Aggressive rhetoric. Trump's use of aggressive language is another aspect of his approach. Provocative statements. Trump has used colorful and sometimes inflammatory language to describe foreign leaders and situations, such as referring to North Korea's leader as Little Rocket Man. Threats and ultimatums. He has made public threats of military action or economic consequences, which some argue could pressure adversaries into negotiations. Willingness to take risks. Trump's approach often involves taking unconventional actions, diplomatic gambles. His decision to meet directly with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un broke with previous administration's approaches, economic pressure. Trump's use of tariffs and trade wars as negotiating tactics represents a willingness to risk economic disruption for potential gains. Projection of strength. Trump often emphasizes his own strength and America's power. He cultivates an image of being a strong, decisive leader who won't back down from confrontation. Trump has emphasized military strength and readiness, which some argue could deter potential aggressors. Criticisms and limitations. While some argue that these elements make Trump's approach effective, there are significant criticisms and limitations to consider. The Madman theory relies on the perception that threats are credible. However, frequent use of extreme rhetoric can erode that credibility over time. Trump's unpredictable behavior and disregard for diplomatic norms have strained relationships with traditional U.S. allies. Rather than deterring adversaries, Trump's approach may have escalated tensions in some cases, such as with Iran after withdrawing from the nuclear deal. While Trump's approach may have led to short-term concessions or attention-grabbing summits, critics argue that it has not resulted in significant, lasting foreign policy achievements. The Madman approach can create uncertainty and instability in international relations, potentially harming long-term U.S. interests. Case studies. To better understand the perceived effectiveness and limitations of Trump's approach, let's examine a few specific cases. Trump's aggressive rhetoric and threats of fire and fury initially raised tensions with North Korea. His willingness to meet directly with Kim Jong-un broke with previous diplomatic approaches. While the summits generated significant media attention, critics argue that they yielded few concrete results in terms of denuclearization. Trump's use of tariffs and trade war tactics represented a more confrontational approach to U.S.-China economic relations. While this led to a Phase 1 trade deal, the long-term effectiveness and consequences of this strategy remain debated. Trump's decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal and impose maximum pressure sanctions was a significant departure from previous policy. This approach has not yet led to a new agreement, and critics argue it has increased regional tensions and accelerated Iran's nuclear program. Conclusion. The effectiveness of Donald Trump's application of the Madman theory in foreign policy is a subject of intense debate. While proponents argue that his unpredictability and willingness to break norms have given the U.S. leverage in negotiations, critics contend that the approach has yielded few lasting results while potentially damaging America's long-term interests and global standing. Ultimately, the true impact of Trump's foreign policy approach may only become clear with time and further analysis. What is certain is that his unconventional style has challenged traditional notions of diplomacy and international relations, prompting ongoing discussions about the role of unpredictability and perceived irrationality in foreign policy. As we consider the potential effectiveness of the Madman theory, it's crucial to weigh the short-term gains against the long-term consequences for international stability, alliance structures, and America's global leadership role. The debate over Trump's foreign policy legacy and the viability of the Madman approach is likely to continue well beyond his time in office, shaping discussions on U.S. foreign policy strategy for years to come.